about slavery right now that has not been happening at all. It's a subject people are afraid to talk about. And now because of this movie, people aren't afraid to talk about it. People are talking about it.
No one in Hollywood ever expected Quentin Tarantino, the man who proudly claimed that actors were not divine beings, to suddenly break his own rule. Yet here he is, admitting that 6 performers didn't just inspire him, they shook him, challenged him, and nearly redefined the very way he makes movies. He says they aren't the traditional giants people worship. They aren't the glossy poster icons studios treat like gods. Instead, they are the rare explosive forces who made his hands tremble on set, who made him question his own instincts, who made him consider abandoning entire scenes because their performances were simply too powerful to contain. And when Tarantino finally revealed their names, the world realized something astonishing. These actors weren't unreachable legends. They were human, flawed, brilliant, terrifyingly real, and closer to us than we think. The first name on his secret list, the one who made Tarantino lose control of his own set, Leonardo DiCaprio. But before he ever admitted admiration, something happened. Something bloody, unexpected, and unforgettable that pushed Tarantino into a kind of creative surrender he had never experienced before. Leonardo DiCaprio stands at the very top of Tarantino's private hierarchy, not because he is famous, but because he is the only actor who ever pushed Tarantino to the edge of losing complete control. No one else has ever shocked him, seduced his creativity, or ignited such an obsessive fire in him. That moment happened on the set of Django Unchained. Tarantino watched, stunned, as DiCaprio crushed a real crystal glass with his bare hand, shards slicing into his skin, blood running freely, yet Leo never broke character. He didn't flinch. He didn't look at the wound. He stayed inside the brutal rhythm of the scene as if pain belonged there. Tarantino later admitted, half amazed and half unsettled. He crossed a line actors never cross, and I loved him for it. Because what captivated him wasn't just commitment, it was danger. DiCaprio acted like his body was irrelevant, like the only thing that mattered was the truth inside that moment. When he slammed that bleeding hand onto Kerry Washington's face, an action that wasn't scripted, wasn't rehearsed, wasn't even imaginable, Tarantino nearly forgot he was the one supposed to yell, "Cut." For a split second, the director wasn't directing. He was witnessing something raw, unrestrained, and frighteningly alive. From that day forward, DiCaprio became more than an actor to him. He became a cinematic weapon, capable of creating villains so vile, so magnetic, so disturbingly charming that Tarantino felt addicted to the chaos he brought. And Leo delivered again years later in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But this time, it wasn't danger that captivated Tarantino, it was vulnerability. Leo slipped between insecurity, rage, humor, despair, and collapse in a single uninterrupted take. The entire crew went silent. It felt less like acting and more like emotional combustion. What made it even more intimidating? Leo never asked for praise. He never sought Tarantino's approval. Between takes, he didn't even look at him. He simply transformed again and again with a quiet confidence that made Tarantino feel both terrified and exhilarated. The director once confessed privately to a producer, "Leo gives me courage. He makes me a braver filmmaker." It wasn't flattery, it was a confession, a surrender. Tarantino likes many actors, he respects only a small handful. But Leonardo DiCaprio? He is the one Quentin Tarantino tries to impress. The moment Uma Thurman leaned back in her chair at Jack Rabbit Slim's, curled a strand of hair behind her ear, and shot that sly sideways glance at John Travolta, Quentin Tarantino felt something shift, subtle, electric, and dangerous. That tiny, improvised flick of attitude wasn't in the script. No one asked for it. Yet it rewired him instantly. He whispered to his script supervisor, almost in awe, "She's dangerous in the best way." And that was the moment his creative obsession with her began. Tarantino didn't fall for Uma because she was merely talented. Hollywood is full of talent. He fell for her because she surprised him, because she controlled scenes not with volume, but with micro movements, tiny pulses of character that slipped between the lines he had written. On the set of Pulp Fiction, she could shift an entire scene's energy with a single breath. The slow, deliberate inhale of a cigarette before answering a question. The drop in her voice just half an octave whenever she lied. The effortless way she walked, as though she held a secret she never intended to explain. Tarantino watched all of it. He studied it. The more she deviated from the expected rhythm, the more he realized something startling. He didn't want to control her instincts. He needed them. But the real rupture came during Kill Bill. Tarantino demanded vengeance. Uma delivered mythology. She trained like a warrior possessed. Kung fu, sword work, choreography, pushing her body to extremes that bordered on self-punishment. When her legs trembled from exhaustion, she pushed harder. When her knuckles split open during combat practice, she kept going. Tarantino later admitted with a kind of reverence, "No one has ever fought for one of my characters like Uma fought for the bride." And then came the car crash. The headlines, the accusations, the pain that followed her for years. Her neck was injured, her knees damaged. The world waited for her to destroy him publicly, but she didn't. Instead, she eventually walked back into Tarantino's life, not with fury, not to seek revenge, but to confront him honestly, humanly, painfully, and to reclaim the creative bond they had built together. That moment, quiet and devastating, shattered him more than any scandal, because it meant she didn't just forgive him, she understood him. Uma Thurman didn't simply act for Tarantino, she rewired the way he dreams. What ignited the explosive bond between Quentin Tarantino and Samuel L. Jackson? The answer revealed itself the very first time Jackson opened his mouth at a table read. He didn't warm up, he didn't ask for direction, he simply started reading, and Tarantino felt betrayed by his own imagination. Because Jackson didn't just read Tarantino's dialogue, he elevated it. He made it sound sharper, richer, more musical than it had ever sounded in Tarantino's own head. When Jackson delivered Jules's Ezekiel monologue for the first time, with no rehearsal, no preparation, the room went still. His rhythm sliced through the silence. His pauses felt like blades stopping mid-air. His eyes carried both a sermon and a threat. Tarantino leaned toward a producer and whispered, almost trembling, "He's not reading, he's commanding." That was the exact moment Tarantino knew he wasn't just dealing with an actor. He was dealing with a force. On set, their connection deepened into something nearly ritualistic. Jackson possessed a supernatural ability to change tone in the middle of a sentence, to turn a simple phrase into a cinematic grenade. Tarantino became addicted to watching him work. Addicted to the way Jackson could hold a silence so long that even the camera seemed to sweat. Most actors struggled to survive 30 seconds of Tarantino's dense, twisting dialogue. Jackson could deliver 5-minute speeches without dropping a syllable. He never rushed, never repeated, never hesitated. He understood Tarantino's cadence as if it were his own heartbeat, and Jackson felt the same fire. He once said, "Quentin lets me bring the fire, then shapes the flames." Tarantino taped that quote above his desk for years. It meant everything because it explained what made their collaboration inevitable. Jackson made Tarantino a better writer. Tarantino made Jackson a myth. Across Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight, their partnership became sacred. The kind of artistic bond that feels less like choice and more like destiny. Even today, Tarantino hints that he cannot retire without creating one last role for Samuel L. Jackson. Not out of loyalty, out of need. Christoph Waltz earned Quentin Tarantino's loyalty in a single moment, one so decisive, so electrifying, that Tarantino later admitted it felt like watching his own film come back from the dead. For months, Tarantino had been searching for someone, anyone, capable of handling Hans Landa's mountain of dialogue. Actor after actor tried and failed. The character was too precise, too linguistic, too dangerously charming. Tarantino began to fear that Inglourious Bastards might collapse before it even started. And then Christoph Waltz walked into the room. He sat down politely, opened the script, and began to read. 4 pages, 1 breath, total control. Tarantino slowly lowered his pen, staring at Waltz as if witnessing a rescue mission in real time. Waltz switched languages mid-sentence with flawless ease. He balanced elegance with threat, sugar with venom, humor with quiet cruelty. Even his smallest gestures, lifting a glass of milk, adjusting his posture, stretching each syllable to just the right length, were perfect. Too perfect. Tarantino later said with absolute certainty, "I realized the movie could exist because he existed." It wasn't a compliment. It was the truth. When filming began, Waltz's precision didn't just elevate the script, it powered the entire movie. While most actors struggled to deliver even 30 seconds of Tarantino's heavy dialogue, Waltz could glide through 5-minute monologues without losing rhythm, breath, or emotional clarity. The crew watched him as if observing an impossible magic trick. Tarantino trusted him instantly, instinctively. Whatever he gave Waltz, Waltz transformed. Whatever he imagined, Waltz expanded. Their bond deepened even further during a Django Unchained, when Tarantino did something he rarely does. He wrote a role specifically for one actor. No auditions, no discussions, just a phone call offering Waltz the character of Dr. King Schultz, the calm intelligence, the moral conviction, the quiet strength, all crafted from the ground up around Waltz's voice. For Tarantino, Christoph Waltz is not just a collaborator. He is the man who made 2 of his greatest films possible. Quentin Tarantino never expected Michael Madsen to reshape his entire understanding of on-screen violence. But that's exactly what happened the moment Madsen stepped onto the Reservoir Dogs set for the infamous ear-cutting scene. Tarantino had given him direction, very specific direction, expecting rage, intensity, explosive brutality, but Madsen ignored all of it. Instead, he walked into the warehouse with a slow, almost lazy swagger. A half smile lingered on his face, a smile far too casual for the brutality about to unfold. He tilted his head, studied the bound police officer, and began speaking softly, so softly it made the entire crew uneasy. The mismatch hit Tarantino like a punch to the stomach. It wasn't what Madsen did that shocked him. It was what he refused to do. He refused to shout. He refused to hurry. He refused to show anger. That cold slowness, calm, almost playful, was far more terrifying than any loud performance could ever be. It was violence without emotion, cruelty without effort. Tarantino watched the monitor stunned, realizing in real time that Madsen had just darkened the entire film without altering a single line of the script. When the camera finally cut, Tarantino said aloud, unable to hide his amazement, he just made the whole movie darker without touching the script. But Madsen didn't just shock him on camera. Off camera, he earned Tarantino's deep admiration for something far rarer, humility. He never demanded top billing. He never asked for a special treatment. He didn't crave attention or praise. He disappeared into the background until the moment he needed to strike. And when he did, he shifted the entire atmosphere. That reliability, that quiet danger made him indispensable. When Tarantino brought him back for Kill Bill and later The Hateful Eight, it wasn't nostalgia, it wasn't favoritism, it was recognition. Madsen possessed something the others didn't, the ability to make an audience nervous without lifting a finger, a presence that couldn't be taught, couldn't be imitated, couldn't be replicated. Michael Madsen may not be the loudest actor Tarantino loves, but he is the one who changed Tarantino's understanding of fear forever. So now, after stepping inside Quentin Tarantino's creative universe, you've witnessed the 6 actors who shaped him, not as a filmmaker, but as a human being driven by obsession, fear, admiration, and raw artistic hunger. Leonardo DiCaprio, who pushed him beyond the edge of control. Uma Thurman, who rewired his instincts and reshaped his dreams. Samuel L. Jackson, whose voice became the heartbeat of Tarantino's writing. Christoph Waltz, the man who saved the film before it collapsed. Michael Madsen, who transformed fear into something quiet, cold, and unforgettable. These 6 aren't just performers. They are the living forces that built Tarantino's cinematic mythology. Some shocked him, some challenged him, some frightened him. All of them changed him. And now the question falls to you. Which one of these 6 actors surprised you the most? Whose story revealed a side of Tarantino's world you never expected? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mind of one of cinema's most unpredictable visionaries, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another untold story from behind Hollywood's wildest creative journeys. Because in Tarantino's world, the truth is always stranger and far more thrilling than fiction.